complex financial side. So I'm always eager to just go back over all of the ins and outs of financial underwriting. So this was perfect timing.
Great, thanks.
And this is Julie. I started in new business. I was an admin, and then I worked my way up to a case manager, senior case manager, and then I would say for the last, definitely for the last 4 years I've been in underwriting, but I was kind of, one foot in one department and one in the other for a little bit there. So yeah.
Great. And then I see Bridget joined us.
Hi.
Hi.
Sorry, I just got on, so I'm not sure what's happening. But
you're not missing anything yet. You haven't missed anything yet.
Okay, all right, I'm here.
I was just, because it's a nice small group, and I'm getting to know my customers a little bit, I thought I'd find out just sort of where you fit in your company. What's your role?
So I run new business and work very closely with the case managers. I also do a lot of stuff operations wise in the office and track production and things like that. So I'm kind of all over the place.
Okay.
And just been with the partners for a very long time. And yeah, that's it. I've been in the marketing side, I've been on the sales side, and yeah, that's about it.
Great. A Jane of all trades.
Yeah,
cool.
she's a lady of many hats.
Well, it's really nice to meet all of you, and I appreciate your time. I preface this, Bridget, this is my first and I hope one of many opportunities to present to BGAs. I love that aspect of underwriting. It's a big part of it, and one of my favorite parts. So
Great.
Go ahead and start. All right, so the agenda for today. So we're going to go over the basics really of financial underwriting. And the nice thing about this topic is it bridges, whether it's personal insurance or business insurance, there is an aspect of financial underwriting really for both, right? We all would like to think we're worth 12 million or more, but when it comes to underwriting the financials, there are some rules and guidelines around what the face amount can be for personal cases. And then for business, there are even more complex rules around face amount as we go through the underwriting process. So really determining the appropriate face amount is so important. And I know for you all, you're helping an agent determine, is this the right face amount for my customer? And so we'll go through a few things today and hopefully answer some of those questions, or maybe it's just a reminder for some of you, those who've been in for a long time. All right, so personal cases. It really covers, a wide range of situations. We want to make sure that personal coverage doesn't overinsure someone, but that they have adequate coverage for their situation. Business coverage, in contrast to that, is really making sure that a business is protected. So while a personal case is really based on the personal need and not so much related to their true employment, business cases are in fact based a lot on employment, right? So we will go through and really just look at what all of that means. So the do's and don'ts of a cover letter. I love cover letters, so I love this slide. I think cover letters should be included anytime there is something, and today's favorite word for me for some reason is wonky. So anytime something's a little different and doesn't fit our norm, isn't a cookie cutter case, I think a cover letter is important, whether it's personal or business. So what makes a good cover letter? The reason for the insurance, really outlining that overall purpose. How the face amount was determined. Was it determined based on kind of replacing somebody's salary? So that would be a spousal or partner situation. You have kids, and so you're looking to ensure that Your family is cared for. So what's the reason for the insurance, and how did you determine what the face amount was going to be? Total amount that they have with all companies, right? All life insurance companies. This does play a part in the risk evaluation. As I think you probably all know, it sounds like you've been in the industry for a while. And then any details on the pending application. Are we replacing life insurance? Really what, if there's complexity to who the beneficiary is, sorry, I stuttered on that word, complexity of ownership. To talk about that in the cover letter really helps the underwriter start to paint that picture and understand what is going on for that client, and helps, you know, start to frame up what they're going to need as requirements, or do they have everything they need already in the file to move forward. And please shout out questions as they come up. I don't want to just talk at you. So this chart that's on this particular slide, you can also find in our field guide. There is a section on financial underwriting, and a lot of what I'm going to go over today, you can also find in the field guide. So this isn't, you know, going to be the end all, the be all. You do have resources, and I want to make sure I point that out as we go along. Not only the field guide, but you can always contact us. So, most common reason for life insurance. You know, the most common reasons really is replacing the income in the event of a death, right? And so that's to replace that earned income. And so we want to make sure that we talk, you know, we don't want to overinsure. We want to make sure the face amount is appropriate. And so we have broken it down by age. So when you're younger, you have a longer lifespan, we do hope. And so we have a larger factor to multiply by. So it's a 30 times the income. So basically 30 years, if you want to look at it that way. And so on. And then as you get older, obviously the risk and the need to have a large face amount usually reduces. So that's more of either a smaller factor or individual consideration, depending on overall, you know, assets and things that the older person is trying to protect. It's really hard to call people older at 70 these days. So, you know, at that older age group, it could be the more passive types of income, like rental, property, investments, and we possibly want to see some statements around that as we determine a face amount for a 70 or above, or somebody outside that employment situation. Any questions so far, since I'm sort of talking at you, I know?
Nope.
All right. Okay. One of the things, and I talked to a colleague about financial underwriting this morning, it's always good to bounce things off of people, but he made the point, and this is very, very true, what we want is often not what we need when it comes to many things, but specifically face amounts in insurance. And that can be a pretty tough sell when somebody comes to an agent and believes they need 2 or 3 million, when in fact they may only need $1 million, $1.5 million. So financial underwriting really is so very, very important. And using this chart really helps the client understand just as much as it does the selling agent. Okay. All right. Personal cases. And this is kind of that, and I'm going to say partner throughout this to go back and forth, you know, it gets a little confusing. And let's face it, whether you're a true spouse in the married sense of the word or a domestic partner, you're still a partner. And so what we look for here is to provide coverage to the insureds who do not earn income. So this is the one partner stays home, one partner is out in the workforce. And how do we determine that face amount? So it really is based on the earner's income for that non-earner partner. And so we need, when a non-earning partner is applying, we do need to know their earning partner's income. So in the younger age group, so below age 70, it can match the earning spouses up to 3 million. Okay, so it's a match, it's an equal. If we go over the 3 million mark, we do look at those on an individual consideration. We have underwriters who are very well versed in financial underwriting and large case underwriting, and they would get involved in these situations where it's we need to really assess why they need more than 3 million. In the older age groups, again, it's that individual consideration, just like it was to determine the face amount for the earning partner in the relationship. So again, the field needs to do a little bit of legwork in determining face amount, and it can get tricky because you are talking to people about, you know, investments on things that they aren't always super comfortable discussing. So going back to that chart can be a very helpful tool to the field, rather than just sort of firing at a client. I need to know, you know, your income, your investments in order to determine your face amount and your spouse or partner's face amount. One thing that was pointed out to me this morning that I'd like to share, and I'm actually going to read this because I thought my partner in crime here put it very well. We have rules for those situations where the spouse/partner has a lesser earned income than that of their partner. In these situations, the person with the lower income can have the same amount of coverage as the higher wage earner, up to a maximum of 3 million. Of course, that seems to be our magic number there, up to age 70. And I think that's really important because I think we often will take a look at the lower earning partner and think, well, they don't need as much coverage. And in fact, they probably do need as much coverage as the higher earning partner to, again, make sure that the family is covered and has what they need. All right, questions before we go to the next slide? And if this is not meeting your needs, shout out and I can try and modify a little bit.
I'm good.
Okay, great. All right, slide 6, the unemployed. This is so difficult. This is a really tough area because especially in, I was hoping not to have to mention COVID-19 today at all for anything because it's just so heavy and daunting at times. But let's face it, more and more people are finding themselves unemployed in these unprecedented times. I listened on the news last night that airlines are going to begin laying off, and the ripple down effect for unemployment is really very concerning because it isn't just the employee of the airline. Obviously, it's airport employees, businesses around airports, TSA. So we do know that this is something that we're going to be seeing more and more of. So knowing that this is a difficult area, we would want to know, and really a cover letter, going back to the first bit, cover letters help this. What was their previous employment? What had been their income at time of, and I'm calling it termination of the job, and I don't mean that in the firing sense, but just when that job ended. What was their salary at that time? Why did their job end? Because we can make exceptions for those people who were employed prior to COVID-19 and are actively searching for employment currently. And what kind of job leads do they have? So, you know, if they've left a job, what are they doing and how are they finding job leads? Do they have any potential job leads? What is the expected salary of that potential new job? And then if it's due to a medical reason, what is the medical reason? Because that could also impact the overall medical risk of the case as well. So there are a lot of factors that go into reviewing somebody who is unemployed. So the more information we have on that cover letter explaining what the situation is, the better we can assess the person and potentially offer coverage. Again, this is a tough time for a lot of people. And and a time when they may be truly reassessing their overall finances and want to make sure that they are providing for their family. Obviously, there's a cap to the unemployed, and that is a maximum of $250,000. Large cases. We have specific underwriters on our teams who do the large case underwriting. They go through an awful lot of training. When I came on board last June, I had an underwriter going through his large case training. Not only do they train extensively with our senior underwriting consultants, but they have to look at a significant number of large cases and have those signed off before they are officially large case. So complex for sure. More requirements, absolutely, because we are putting the company on the risk for what we have determined is a large face amount. For us, 5 million and up would be considered large case. And with that comes, again, looking at the financial need. So we do inspection reports. We do a third-party financial verification. We do want copies of tax returns and or a W-2 form and statements from either their accountant or their attorney, really testifying to their overall worth, for lack of a better way to say that, or their income. Often large face amounts are really based on a large income and not so much investments and those sorts of things, but the income alone. We would also then use our normal age requirements. So when we talk age and amount, and we're looking at these large cases, the age requirements remain the same. So Part 2 labs, and an APS, whatever is appropriate, and then these additional requirements. We are often asked to waive the inspection report. That is a kind of what I would call an individual consideration as well. It would depend on what other information we have in file, and certainly on any cover letter that would be sent in that could potentially help us better understand why we don't need the inspection report. 10 million and over, we have a requirement of 2 years of tax returns with all the schedules included, balance sheets, all that good stuff.
Hey, Amy, can you remind me what your retention is?
Shoot. You know what? I'll find that.
Hold on, I have it. Hold on a second. I just got this from Mark Grove. So hold on one second.
I know I just got an email like 2 days ago, I think.
I just got this. So hold on one second. I'll pull it up. And this is
okay.
This is temporary because of the COVID. So hold on one second. I just
Yeah, we actually just changed it. I think we had an email on Friday, Thursday or Friday.
So I got this from Mark yesterday, I believe, because I asked him for it following a call on Monday.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and I can email this to you guys as well, but I knew I had it.
I am so glad you did, because I was going to have to go hunt in my Mark folder for it. So thank you. Teamwork.
That's right.
What other questions before we go on?
I'm good.
We're good.
All right. So estate cases are really, really rare, and I really have only maybe seen once in a 39, 40-year career doing life insurance before I was a long-term care underwriter, and then now I haven't seen one at all at Pacific Life. So these would be situations if you have something that is they're doing their estate planning and that is why they are applying. We highly recommend you reach out to us with whatever detail you do have, and we can guide you through the process, because it is very rarely seen, and something that we might even need a day or two to make sure we're giving you all the accurate needs to move forward with the case. So with that in mind, we would want to make sure that the estate has a tax need, right? So if you think about estate planning, if if your estate goes to your spouse, there is no tax implications there. It transfers tax-free. So we would need to know what the tax obligation is. So who are the heirs? That really then starts the process of estate planning from a life insurance standpoint. And then the face amount is usually based on the portion of the estate's net worth with an allowance for annual growth for a period of about 15 years, or the life expectancy of the proposed insured, whichever is shorter. That seems cruel, but whichever is shorter. Our guidelines really set a net worth of multiplied by 55%. So if we took their net worth multiplied by 55%, that would give us a baseline for the face amount and their net value. But again, we would need to know who the heirs are, because the spouse does not have that tax need. So estate planning really is when you have a trust set up and the trust is the beneficiary. Maybe it's children are the beneficiary of your estate, and that's actually when you want to start that estate planning policy that pays the taxes for them upon your death. Any questions on that? That one was one I had to read through twice because we never see them. I mean, it's just so rare because most people do not have their estate set up in a way that really requires, insurance to cover the taxes.
I was just thinking, what does the net worth have to be to qualify for the estate tax burden, basically?
It has to be a fairly high value. I don't have an absolute question, but I'll find out.
I just had it the other day I was watching a shoot. I think they're planning on lowering it. And I know I thought it was over 10 million, but I think they're planning on, it's going to be changed coming up in the next year or so. And
Okay.
I think it can fluctuate.
Yeah.
I think it can fluctuate depending on the president we have.
Correct.
I mean, I promise I'm not being silly about that.
I know. It is just so true. It is very politically driven, and I'm not being silly either.
No, and I looked it up too, but I thought I read that it was dropping to 3 million potentially. So it's not there now, but that's what I remember.
Yeah, and my recollection, Carlin, also is 10 million, but I wouldn't want to say that with confidence. I'd want to look and make sure. And obviously with an election coming up, and it is such a political softball, maybe it's more of a hardball really when you think about it. We don't know until after the election kind of maybe which direction it may go. So I'll look and get back to you on that. What else on that? All right.
I don't have any questions in particular yet.
Okay. Yeah, I'm actually really curious now as to what that cap is, or what that is currently, because I do know that's kind of something, I don't know, it's just a little scary when I think about it, like, why is that such a political piece? But it is. All right, so juvenile cases and special needs. So obviously we have, standalone policies for juveniles. We have a rider, a children's rider. So the juvenile can be insured up to 50% of the personal coverage of the highest insured parent, but it should not then be more than the least insured. So generally speaking, partners, their insurance is fairly comparable. So 50% of that highest insured parent is the face amount. The child has to be 15 days old or older with a maximum age of age 20. If it is a rider, the child over age 18 needs to be a dependent. This can be a guardianship situation. It can be a college age student or a college student, but it can be a child who has some special needs and the parent is the guardian. All siblings need to be covered at the same amount. If it is an amount of over $1 million, then we do look at that as an individual consideration. So if a parent has a high enough face amount and that puts the child at $1 million or more, we do like to look at those. Legal guardian we may require copies of the guardianship paperwork by the court. This would be particularly for special needs child. Again, I asked about this morning when I talked to Jim, and because I have not seen a guardianship situation since being here, and neither actually had he. And he was saying that really those are kind of that special situation where obviously it's a mental or a physical need, and one or both parents provide some form of care, whether it's full-time or part-time. If it's full-time care, that's could imply a higher face amount to continue the care of that child or that individual long-term. If it is that the person is a part-time caregiver and working part-time, then the face amount of that policy is determined on the it's really 20% of what the insured would qualify for using the personal coverage or income replacement chart. And that was that chart further up for the younger age applicant. It was 30 times their income and so on. So this gets a little bit trickier. And with anything financial, we want to certainly offer that you can reach out to us at any time, especially these sort of rarer situations that we just don't see very often, and we want to make sure that we were giving good advice and asking for all the appropriate requirements without piecemealing them to you. So reaching out early in the process when you have either a juvenile situation where it's a guardianship, you have an estate situation that we don't see very often, reaching out, making sure that you partner with us and we can help you determine exactly what is needed. All right, charitable giving. I think I covered both these slides in one, but let me just make sure that there isn't, I don't think there is anything here that we didn't cover as I was talking, because I wasn't looking at the slide. I think we can go to the next slide, to charitable giving, which is one of my favorite things to talk about. The face amount on a charitable giving policy is the average of their history, their 3-year history of charitable donations. So, and that gift is multiplied by the lesser of 50 years or remaining life expectancy. So we would want proof from Section A of their taxes as to how much they had given each year before we could determine the appropriate face amount for that charitable giving policy. There's an animal shelter in my area, and I keep thinking that I really want to up my giving so that I can make them a beneficiary on a lot of my estate planning and what have you, and have it make sense. This is a lovely thing. I don't think we see very many charitable giving policies. Carlin, do you know of very many?
No, I haven't seen a lot. I know we talk about it a lot, but I just do not see a lot of them. In the past, I did see more than I have in recent history.
Yeah. But nice, as people are doing their estate planning, I think as they're piecing together everything they're doing, this could come up. Again, just that proof of giving in order to justify the face amount. And again, I think the last bullet point almost is a no-brainer. It really must be the charitable organization and not an individual. We can all be our own charities, right? All right, business cases. Business cases fall into 3 different categories. There's key person, buy, sell, and then debt repayment. Again, all of the financial underwriting tips are also at the kind of the back end of our field guide under financial. So if ever you're not sure, you can pull that resource and then contact us. The cases can be, multi-purpose. They can be both buy, sell, and key man, or key person. You can tell I'm an old school underwriter. We used to call it key man. It's really key person. And so the formulas to determine the face amount would pull all of that information together, and we would use that to justify the face amount. Owner and beneficiary really are key to setting those cases up and have to meet the intended purpose. And the owner beneficiary, there needs to be an insurable interest. When I first came on board, I had a case where we probably spent 3 months trying to determine, was there really an insurable interest in the case? And we had multiple meetings to discuss it. And it turned out there wasn't an insurable interest in the way this was being written up. So really, making sure that owner and beneficiary are key to what the purpose of the coverage is. And I'll go back to cover letters. That really helps us a lot when we are looking at these business cases. So we can go, I think, let's go to key person. All right. So this, is kind of, I always felt like this one was obvious until I started to really dig into it. And that's that you're really compensating an employer for the loss of a key person. But who is a key person? It can be your top salesperson. It can be the CEO. It can be a lot of different scenarios for key person. And then it's what is the loss? And the loss is, sometimes it's hard to put a value on that. So what needs to happen in order to regain what you're losing when you lose that key person? So here's some really great, recruiting, training costs, productivity. Those are all things that we look at when we are looking at that key person coverage. The employer and the business really must be the owner and the beneficiary on these policies. Anything else takes it out of key person, and it could potentially fall into personal or other types of insurance. The circumstance I got involved in last year, it ended up really being more of a personal need. And that was a hard sell because they wanted it to be key person. So making sure that as these policies are being sold, that's understood, that it must be the business and or the employer as the owner beneficiary. Obviously, face amount up to 10 times the salary. It'd be all the non-wage, so up to 100% of non-wage benefits can be included. So, bonuses and that kind of thing can be included when we're looking at the face amount. We would need the financial section completed. And again, we keep harping on cover letters, but when I talk to my large case underwriter about, specific business cases she's working on that are stalled or delayed, she will often reach out to the BGA and say, if you could just send me a cover letter, it would make a huge difference. So really spelling out the key person's role, responsibilities, why they're applying for this key person coverage really makes a difference. Obviously, there are states that are special, right? And these, so we do need to follow those special rules in California, Florida, Montana, New York, and Washington. I couldn't tell you exactly what those special rules are, but they do exist. We do follow them. Again, another reason for having just a limited number of underwriters who do these larger cases and are familiar with these rules and regulations and ensure that we do follow them. We don't want to be out of compliance on that. Questions? Okay. All right.
No, but I can just chime in and let you know that the estate tax is now at 11.5 million, so north of 11.5.
Wow.
Like 40% federal plus state.
And, and I was looking it up too. That's why I didn't change the screen when we were on the. It says it's set to sunset in 2025, back to the
Good through 2025. Yep.
2018 level of 5 million.
Yeah.
It went up by like 180,000 from last year to this year, the 11.5
Right.
million. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be better for us, but 2025 is a ways away.
That's right.
Better for the industry, I guess, is what I meant.
Yes, it will be better for the industry. And while that sounds really far away, it'll be here, I think, before we know it.
At this point, I welcome it.
Yeah, I know.
For real.
Thank you for finding that. I appreciate it. And I've made a note, so if I get asked that again, I will know. And I'm making one more note before I keep talking, so thank you for educating me. It's actually, it's really one of the things I like best about these conversations is that we all learn. All right, so the buy-sell coverage. So this, again, I think we all know what it means. It provides the ability for the surviving partner to either purchase the other half of the business or third of the business, whatever that split is, from the heirs of the person who has passed away. And it allows those surviving owners to really continue the business and continue their own livelihood, and really helps the survivor of the deceased partner also carry on and get what they deserve from that partnership. So the three main types are cross-purchase agreements, entity purchase, stock redemption agreement, and then the unilateral agreement, the one-way buy-sell. And then the caveat at the bottom here, the owner and beneficiary must be the person or entity who is purchasing ownership. So there should only be one owner per policy. So you might have more than one buy-sell policy for a business. So cross-purchase agreements, that's where each partner is obligated to purchase buy-sell coverage on every other partner. Entity purchase stock redemption agreement, that was a mouthful for me at this point, is where the business entity agrees to redeem interest from the estate of the insured. And then the unilateral, the one-way buy-sell, where only one party is obligated to buy and only one party is obligated to sell. This normally really occurs when a business owner has an agreement to sell the business to a long-time employee. The owner and beneficiary must be the person or entity who is purchasing the ownership. So again, only one owner per policy. I think that was something that really resonated with me, because I'm thinking, well, what if there are multiple partners? And so that's where you really need to ensure that the right people are part of these policies and each person has that policy. I don't think we see many that are more than that kind of that cross purpose is usually what we see. I have seen some unilateral since being here, but not very many. But again, it's, I think we all know the purpose, and that's to allow those surviving owners to, purchase the business and keep moving forward. All right, slide 12. I like this because this pulls from our field guide, the grid that we, have out there. These are the things that an underwriter really needs to know before they can move forward. These are the things you'd want to include in the part one cover letter, any sort of communication about that. And it's percentage of ownership for all parties, the business assets and liabilities, and amount of coverage for all owners, because again, all owners would need to be a part of these buy-sell policies. So if we look at this grid, Let me just scroll down to it in my bit here. Depending on the face amount, you can see that so 500 million and above, a copy of the buy-sell agreement is required. So this will give you the requirements based on the face amounts. The lower the face amount, the requirement changes just a little bit. So if you go down to the 500 or under, all parties have to either be owners of the business or it has to be the business itself. And we have to have sufficient documentation in those. And often that can get confusing. What does sufficient mean? And that's where the underwriter can really help you work through that. And they'll try to specifically ask for the proper verification in these situations. And then we get up to the higher face amounts, and we must have a buy-sell agreement in order to move forward with the coverage. 2 years of tax returns is often required in these situations. Statements from their CPA often required. Again, that depends a lot on the face amount, but 10 million and over, really we do require that third-party documentation. So tax returns and CPA or attorney statements. Part 3 of the buy-sell. So this is math, kind of, sort of. The face, it's all math. Sorry, I get punchy, I think, through these things sometimes because it's, I feel like I'm talking at you a little bit, and I apologize for that. But the face amount for a buy-sell policy is the percentage of ownership times the business net worth, or percentage of ownership times business net profit times 10. So normally everyone would be applying at the same time, right? You would have everybody applying at the same time. And if that isn't the case, we would really want to know why. So they, all parties involved in these buy-sell need to apply at the same time, unless there's good reason not to. Possibly there's buy-sell in place and somebody new has come on board, and that is why. And then we would need proof of other coverage for the other partners. And it, again, going back to the cover letter, needs to be fully explained in a cover letter. Debt repayment. Debt repayment policies allocate the death benefit to repay the remaining amount of a business loan. So in those cases, the business has to be the owner of the policy. That is absolute necessity. The face amount can be up to 100% of the debt. Lines of credit can be insured provided that they are used during the 2 years immediately preceding the application date. You all can read, I'm really pulling out for me what were highlights on this slide. Documentation, I think that's huge when we are trying to pull the package together for the underwriter. Additional documentation, copies of the loan or the business financial statements may be requested. This isn't unusual. Some people don't like to provide that, but it really is important that we have that information to, again, justify the need. Debt repayment coverage can be considered in key person coverage, but it really can't exceed 100% of the debt, and cannot exceed 50% of the amount allowed by key person multipliers. So whether the creditor is named as the beneficiary, so if in fact it's as their interest may appear with balance, if any, too. And so, there's that legalese that comes in that we have to be aware of when we start to look at the creditor named as beneficiary. It has to be worded appropriately. And we can always, assist if you're not sure how to word that. But you all have a lot of experience, and I am guessing you could probably recite what that wording needs to be with no assistance from me. bankruptcies. I learned a little bit more about this this past year because I did not realize that dismissed was different than discharged when it came to this, because I have not spent a lot of time doing financial underwriting where I actually had anybody who'd had bankruptcies. So keep in mind that with a history of bankruptcy, we can insure that person. There can be a financial need, but we do look at it very carefully. And the bankruptcy must be discharged for at least 1 year before applying. And that a dismissed bankruptcy actually is not discharged and they are not eligible for coverage. So I loved learning that. Dismissed cases very likely will be declined by us for coverage. A cover letter with details that keeps coming up of the cause for the bankruptcy, as well as their current financial situation, will be incredibly important to the underwriter as they pull together the picture of the person and whether or not there is financial justification for the insurance. Case studies. So these are always great. We have 9 minutes left. I really like case studies. I think they help kind of pull it all together. But I also don't like reading to people personally. So as you read through the case study, do you have any questions on these case studies? We've got Michelle, who's 30, and Jacob, who's 32. He is the stay-at-home dad. She is the income earner, and they're both applying for $500,000. She has nothing in force. He already has 200.
That seems pretty straightforward. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. And it's a nice, it makes sense to also subtract what he already has in place. So, okay, cool. All right, let's go to the next. This is because business and key person is something that I am not as well versed in. I find these a little more challenging. And so I loved this particular case because it helped pull it all together for me and pull it together in my head. So as we read through this, their top programmer, 10 years with the employer. He's a huge asset. Replacing him would really take a lot. So they show him to be a key employee of the employer, and he can be insured for up to 10 times his salary, and that's 1.5 million. They applied for $1 million, so just under that amount. So there's no reason to not provide this coverage. They've been reasonable in their approach to what they would need to replace him.
Amy, I have a
But
question.
in theory, they could include any bonuses and other income to attempt to justify face amounts if they need a little bit more.
Yes, they could.
And Amy, would we hold this policy? So let's say he does the $1 million with his employer. Would we hold this against him when we're doing a personal policy? In other words, we'd count that or deduct that?
That's a good question. I don't believe we do count it, but I will confirm that.
Because the owner of this policy would be the employer, not the insured. So we probably wouldn't. I was just curious.
Yeah, I don't believe we would for that very reason. I want to confirm that so I'm not misleading anybody, but my understanding is that it would not, because he is not benefiting, his family is not benefiting. This is his employer benefiting, if you want to call it a benefit. Yeah, I'll confirm, but right now I'm going to say yes. He would be able to apply for his normal. What is it? He is how old? He looks young in this picture, so we'll say 30 times his income. But I'll confirm because I don't want to be wrong. All right, this is the buy sell. 3 partners in a limited liability corporation. They obviously want to keep that going if one of the partners passes away. And so they are doing this buy-sell to allow the surviving owners to buy out the ownership from the heirs of the deceased. They're all applying for the same amount. Net worth of the business is provided, and Lisa owns 60%, and then the other two respectfully. So Lisa she qualifies for $3 million. Alan and Stephanie, with their percentage of ownership, would qualify for $1 million each. Any questions on that?
Nope. Looks pretty straightforward. Yeah.
Yeah, I do have to say,
I wish they came into the office like this, nice and straightforward.
We're looking for a unicorn.
That's right. Always.
We don't have very many unicorns, and like I said, I this week have been working with the large case underwriter on my team, Kathleen, and she has one where she is truly banging her head against the wall because the proposed insured does not want to send a cover letter that explains all the wonkiness that's going on. And she's saying, if you just do that, we can move forward. And they'll say, well, what if we do this instead?
Oh yeah, people get so funny about their medical histories and their finances.
And I get it. It is very personal. And we all understand. And as she was, Kathleen was saying, well, the cover letter would be, just so much easier than them going out for things, but they just keep trying to go, what if we do this? It's kind of like, look over here. But yes, it would be nice if these unicorns came in every so often, wouldn't it? But I do love these case studies nonetheless.
Yeah.
So we have 3 minutes left. Any questions for Amy or myself that we could help with before we wrap up?
None from me. This is Jess. I don't have any that I can think of at the moment.
I don't either.
All right. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go
I
ahead.
was saying, we're here to answer any questions you may have. I have consultants on my team who are very, very well versed in financial underwriting, in buy-sell, in Keyman. We're here to help you. I believe you have my email address, and I think you have my consultants as key contacts that you have there.
And I will email, just to make sure, I'll email everybody the contact sheet that has that information along with the retention that I flashed up there and the underwriting guide. But if there's anything else, if you think of something else you want to have a copy of, or you're looking for, or there's a tool, we probably have it. It's just a matter of locating it. So let me know and I'll be glad to look into it for you.
Sounds great. We appreciate it.
Well, we really appreciate you taking the time, and I really appreciate Amy taking the time to do this for us today. Again, if you have any questions or need anything, please feel free to reach out to both of us. Either one of us are happy to assist any way that we can.
All right. Hey, great job, Amy, on your first go round.
Thank you. I appreciate that. If you have any tidbits for me, pass them my way. I'm anxious.
You got it. If I think of anything, I will. But you did a great job. Thank you so much for giving us your time today.
Absolutely.
Thank
you.
Thank you all.
Have a great day, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.